Well met, lords and ladies, Jacob Butter speaking, and a warm welcome to this week's Walking Wednesday. And I'm going to take this week to go over something, and this was going to be a very depressing Walking Wednesday episode. There was certain events that had happened that I actually that I thought, oh wow, you know, this is going to be the last. We're not going to bounce back from this. And it turns out that that through sheer stubbornness and a little bit of creativity and a random moment of inspiration, in the middle of the night, here we are. And of course, I'm not talking about today's election results, because that is just depressing. However, there are some different elections that perhaps people will be more pleased to hear about. Namely, that yes, I was indeed elected project manager of Quest the Rising Sun. I know that it was a tough race, not gonna lie. So many good candidates that ran against me. None of them, no one did. And that was my first point, actually, because I remember when I said that I had a series of plans that I was going to put in motion when the time came, or if the time came and I end up being put in the top position. And that obviously happened. So basically, there were several things that need to be addressed in order for Quest the Rising Sun to continue. Now, if we backtrack to last week, at the end of Walking Wednesday, I mentioned that I mentioned that there was another huge blow up over the subject of, for example, a shadow ban, which then resulted in like a whole group of everyone coming in to confront the person who conducted said shadow ban. Also the subjects behind what the shadow ban was even meant to be in the first place, and how that was incredibly mishandled and everything, which eventually resulted in the resignation of our second, and at that point most recent DM, Ghosty. By the way, speaking of Ghosty, actually, apparently at some point she's going to be making her own video talking about what went wrong with Quest the Breathing Moon, I should say, the second season, because that's what she was there for. On her channel, I think. So, go ahead and stay tuned for that. If I remember to, I'll put a link to her channel in the description, so you can actually see for yourself when the video comes out. I'm not sure when it's going to be ready, and most likely it's going to be a bit more of an edited ordeal than, the weekly verbal spiel that I produce. So, it might be some time, so subscribe to make sure you don't miss it when it happens. But yeah, as far as I've said previously, yeah, it was just it was terrible on all fronts. Ghosty particularly brought up the concept of stress quite a lot, because without going into too much detail, health-wise, she's not doing great at the moment, and among other things, her doctors have recommended that she don't do anything that was stressful, that would cause a bit more of a decline. And when she signed up to DM season 2 for us, the hope was that after dealing with the issues regarding the first DM and the general incompatibility, that we would be able to move forward with much more of a sandbox setup that would facilitate the roleplay style that we have, and that seemed to be going well until the shadow ban event. Because we did say that Breathing Moon was the 3 sessions that it encompassed were the best sessions that we had up until that point, just because we actually did have the ability to go all out with those ideas and actually not only gain some ideas of, like, you know, what the outer world story was, but also you know, the inner world and how that was formative for us. I don't remember if Ghosty checked our backstories necessarily. I mean, mine was on my character sheet. I think as was everyone else's. So it most likely did happen. I just don't remember it. So but yeah, like we were on track to some great moments. For example, regarding Hera, for example, I'm bringing this up because I'm going to bring up that character later. There was like a moment even in the first episode of season 2 where you know there's the confrontation with Lumina number, you know, 450,000, and which resulted in like a threat from her to leave the group, and which of course happened off screen. But then of course at the same time you have the thing that's you know, is anchoring her to that particular group and why she even met them in the first place. Nathaniel coming in on the other side saying like, nope, yeah, nope, you are getting loved. I don't care. I don't care what you think of yourself. You deserve my affection. Take it all. Basically. And yeah, like that happened in season 1, but not to the same degree, because yeah, like we actually got round to doing the actual date as well, which we'd been building up since the end of season 1. And that was, again, that was 3 sessions, but also more like 4 or 5 real life weeks of anticipation for that particular event, which turned into a double date as well, because we had a second budding romance that came out of nowhere because the NPCs were far better as well. All in all, I'll come back to why I use those examples specifically in a second, but all in all, we were on screen making a lot of progress and having a lot of fun. Behind the scenes, again, things seemed to be okay for the first couple of weeks after seemingly I thought that everyone had aired all of their grievances. Turns out I was mistaken, because there were new aspects that came out, like the specific like nature of certain jokes, or the understanding of said jokes that weren't even of that nature to begin with for the most part. Like, yeah, there was and that's what led to the shadow ban. So again, you know, even when the DM had been replaced, suddenly the complaints came about within, you know, other players amongst each other. So then, of course, the events from last week happened, and Ghosty resigned, and that's why I said that I was going to project manager. So fast forward to I know I think I left it for the weekend basically. Oh wait, no, I didn't, because I was in Madrid last weekend, which I guess I probably should be talking about basically, because last week was a what we call puente over here. It was a bridge where basically because Thursday was a bank holiday, being Halloween and all, they decided, okay, well, there's no point coming back on Friday. Let's just have, you know, the whole 4 days. So it was recommended to me that I actually, if I plan to travel to anywhere, to do it that week. So I did. I went to Madrid. I saw a handful of friends, stayed with one of them, and overall had a fantastic time. We even talked about TTRPGs there. I explained Quest of the Rising Sun to said friends, and one of them seemed to be particularly invested because he wants to try D&D at some point himself. And I offered to DM for him as well. So yeah, but while that was going on, sometimes whenever we were, like, you know, on a train, or I was on the train or the bus coming to or from, I checked in with the group and was trying to make sure that, again, we managed to collect ourselves with our ideas, and we didn't fall apart. And yeah, there were some ideas being thrown around, some you know, the classic creative people trying to establish why certain ideas would work and why they wouldn't, for branding purposes, actually, for this. But yeah, but at the same time as that came about, the time that I was actually chosen as project manager came about because everyone else said, "Oh, I'd be okay with you leading the charge," and then he said, me too, me three." The only person who didn't vote was Aiden, and so I then messaged Aiden because I saw that he was online. Because sometimes when Aiden's in like new group chats, he won't say much. Turns out that he was specifically avoiding messaging in this group chat, which didn't help matters when you're trying to decide things by unanimity. But I messaged him about that, saying like, okay, so are you okay with this, or do you want to apply for yourself or something? To which he said to me in DMs that he was planning to message, which doesn't seem to be the case, to say that he wasn't feeling comfortable and that he too was too stressed by the events that happened, even though they didn't affect him directly. Well, the rebound would have because of the whole impact on the series, but Aiden didn't actually say much when all this stuff was going down. He joined the VC for a bit on mute and listened in, but that's usually enough. You know how I said that some people aren't very good with confrontation? Like KW was one of them, for example, because that was something that came up frequently with when she was project lead, and that's of course one of the reasons that she's stepped down, because that was something that was not too easy to handle, and that she was responsible for, because it was her idea, her concept, and everything. But Aiden is also like that. Even though he was watching on the periphery, it seemed like things got to him. So I at first said to him, okay, well, we're not going to, because of KW scheduling, we're not going to be able to do any more sessions of this until significantly later down the line. Like at least January, because of KW's holiday schedule. She keeps saying, I don't know what's going to happen in January, but January is like the earliest date that something could feasibly return, basically. So I said, okay, well, that's 2 months away, because this was at the start of November, of course. So would you be willing to wait 2 months in order to make a decision? He didn't respond. So I went back to the group and said that he was abstaining from the votes, because that was the best way that I could do to conceal that, because he hadn't given me the all clear, because he also wanted to call me directly, and because I was in Madrid, I wasn't able to. So it seemed like he wanted to talk to me in private about it, which again doesn't help when it's a whole group matter, but I digress. So because he didn't give me the all clear to say, oh well, tell people that I will not be there. So I said, okay, well, I just told him that he was abstaining. Not exactly my my best first act as project manager, having to once again cover up for people who didn't want to communicate properly. That's the kind of thing that I was trying to deliberately avoid, basically, because that's the thing that makes all of us crumble down. But yeah, so we carried on talking about other stuff without Aiden. So basically, there was another proposition that KW offered where we could change the system, because she didn't seem to be happy with how complex the system of D&D 5e was, the one that we are using for Quest of the Rising Sun. And she suggested, having researched into multiple different TTRPG systems, the Fate system, which is much simpler and allows for better role play. And there were a couple of examples where she mentioned that sometimes even the dice rolls themselves facilitate the character dynamics and storytelling. Like, for example, apparently one person was about to die in another campaign of hers, and they rolled to see what this spirit would do to help them recover, and apparently that would lead to one of the most emotional, actually cathartic moments that she's ever had in a TTRPG, and in her words, all because of a dice roll. Now I, and also Emily, proposed that surely if that was the best option, the spirits themselves could have actually decided to do that without the need for a dice, because ultimately we have all been, up until this point, making decisions not only for ourselves but based on what would happen, what would help make the story, and what would be the best moments for our characters and everything. Especially, I think, myself and KW, because of all the alone moments that Nathaniel and Hera have had, specifically. Or even Hera and Lumina as well. Actually, Hera pulls a lot of people aside. I'll come back to that later, actually, because again, I have a whole thing about Hera to discuss in a bit, but we haven't got there yet. So, yeah, like another thing that KW mentioned was that apparently there was that she was feeling in certain decision moments that she was making decisions just based on what would make for a good story, not what she wanted to do as the character. I think that was the implication. She didn't phrase it like that, but it's kind of hard to decipher sometimes what most people in that group are saying. So that's my best interpretation. To which that was the first alarm bell for me, thinking hang on, I thought we were on the same page here as the storytellers that we are, that the best option for us is usually the story one that affects the story the most. What do you mean? I think the meaning was that maybe certain things felt maybe out of character almost, but for the sake of drama were done anyway. I'm not sure what those things would be, but again, this is just my best guess of some very fraught phrasing, let's say. Oh, good geese. Okay. What else? So yeah, eventually the fate system idea was actually rejected because the conversion would be too much. And again, we're trying to avoid stress here. So on one hand, we had KW talking about her being stressed due to the fate system being applied, but then we had Emily arguing against that because the fate system conversion would be stressful to account for. Because yeah, everything's different. There's no character leveling, or there are skill points, but there are skills in slightly different things as well that don't quite correspond. Yeah, I don't know. Jeez, I keep getting stuff in my shoes. So basically, eventually that was shelved because another thing that was causing KW stress was hosting the series in general, and having to be basically standards and practices for her own channel and rules and everything. To which I said, well, okay, well, what if it was done somewhere else? What if we, for example, made a channel that was just for our D&D stuff, and we posted things on there? Would that work? To which I got a resounding yes back, and that would counterbalance the stress from the D&D 5e system itself. because yeah, like ultimately, if you can handle one thing and deal with that, then that's going to be it's going to be far better for you. So yeah, that I think was basically the 4 lines of business that we had. Oh, the second line of business, because I had like an order. Line 1 was project lead. Line 2 was getting a DM, which we kind of parked until Emily suggested Error, aka Errorless Void, or Minus V8 from Final Break if you're in that server. Yeah, they've come in and we haven't filled them in just yet. What we're going to do is we're going to do some like one-shots or something. Not sure if we will post them immediately, because who knows, if we do that new channel, we might need to think about how best to kickstart that. But yeah, so we're going to test to make sure that they're okay with, like, how our group handles ourselves and everything. And I was worried about overwhelming them too much with the fact that there's so much like lore and sources of tension. But actually, they seem to be on the same page as far as like a lot of this stuff goes. Apart from saying that they were unaccustomed to DMing for such a roleplay heavy group, which I guess we'll come back to after this next bit. So we have made a server. In fact, we made the server after those whole discussions happened, and we decided on like the name of it, which we're not going to reveal the name of that yet, because we made sure that it wasn't taken by anything on Google. It didn't generate any Google results except for I think like one from like a dead channel from 6 years ago. So we pretty much have the all clear on that. Yeah, things for at least some time, after Sunday, as soon as I got back, sorted all that stuff out, things were looking up, until they weren't. So I at last got a response from Aiden, that yeah, he had thought about what I said, and had decided that no, he couldn't bear with Oh wait, no, he called me about that. After stream, we mentioned this, but no, he did say that that I could go ahead and tell the others, and that's when he told me he was avoiding talking in the server. Again, very helpful. But yeah, so I announced to everyone that I was finally able to tell them that Aiden had also decided to leave the campaign, and this caused a ripple effect that nearly destroyed everything. So obviously, we were all disillusioned about this, because as much as the character of Doc was dismissed by a lot of people in the party, the player, Aiden, was not. Or at least that was not the intention. So yeah, like, of course, when someone departs from that group that's been there since the beginning, not just, our DM who we had to replace, but also, one of the longtime friends that we started this in the first place with, that was obviously a very heavy blow. It was never going to not be that. This then prompted a message from KW saying that without Aiden there, was it even worth trying to continue? Like, it just seemed like it wouldn't actually work anymore. It wouldn't be the same. To which some of us said, like Error and myself said that there is a precedent for characters leaving a campaign. That does happen sometimes, and it's always very tragic, but it's something that can be accounted for in most circumstances, at least to a certain degree. So, this might not have been the best thing to bring up, because then it raised the idea in KW that very much caught me by surprise. So to not go into too much detail of like our private messages, obviously, some of the all the private messages ended with like the ideas of like, yes, this was a source of stress which I was trying to again find ways to deal with, and to alleviate that, to make sure that she was okay to continue. But a lot of the time, the thing that she mentioned was that I would very much like to continue Hera's story. That was a repeated sentiment, basically. Because again, while the main reasons that I keep propelling Quest of the Rising Sun forward is because everyone seems so attached to their characters. Even Aiden was, like, he mentioned that he put a lot of himself in doc, which, yes, is like standard thing for most people to do when coming up with a character to roleplay. Yes, that's going to happen a lot of the time. Unless you're going for like a direct opposite, in which case they'll still have something to match up with you because that's unavoidable. But yeah, like he's talked to me about like how attached he was to the character and how much he actually wanted to do, and of course the oh so promised romance arc that he was that he really wanted to try to emulate or try to do, which is why I know that the decision to leave was not one that he took lightly. But yeah, he wasn't the only one. When the idea of ending the campaign was brought up again by KW for the millionth time overall, I'm going to decide to go this way now because I've been walking in a straight line for a long time. Emily said, for example, I very much don't want to drop Lumina, and I don't want to drop Nathaniel either, because he was a character that I wanted to bring back and develop from the first time I ever played D&D, in fact. And yeah, with that, if things ended too quickly for him, then that was kind of it. My star player, so to speak, would not be able to shine again in the same way. I mean, sure, I could reboot him, but quite frankly, I've been enjoying the journey he's been going on so much, and none of that could have happened without certain elements from Quest of the Rising Sun. So yeah, it's not something that would have been ideal for me. I'm just checking to see if this is like a whole like downhill thing, because I need to check a different exit route. It's not this one. BB didn't happen to say anything about this. I'm not sure how connected to Barb she is. I'm not saying that she's not connected at all, because that's impossible, but I know that she's played a lot more than we have, and therefore probably has a whole, array of ideas and possibilities to bring forth. But who knows? It's not like BB to, open about this stuff without being asked directly. Yeah, no, this is going too far down, so I'm going to turn back. But yeah, the thing that shocked me, remember how I said before that the major contributing factor was that she wanted to continue Hera's story. Well, now she's saying she wants to continue Hera's story because that was seemingly too stressful. Now I guess Aiden's leaving, bring up the stress for her, which ultimately should have fallen on me more than her, actually, because again, not the lead anymore. That was part of the point. But that then ended up bringing up something that I was quite shocked to discover, but in hindsight makes a lot of sense. So this is where she mentions that actually, in all honesty, Hera was originally just a one-shot character, or supposed to be a one-shot character, and that she Kadebu didn't know what to do for her beyond what had happened already. And that sort of tracks, because if people remember, the way that Quest of the Rising Sun started was that we all were basically supposed to be having like a combat lesson, or trying to establish like how that dynamic would work. Except for Vin decided to have a whole setup for this. So it seemed that there was an impromptu session 0 that came out of that, and after that event and how we actually like bounced off each other, everyone, and I do mean everyone, seemed to want to continue with the story that we had, despite the fact that we had made the characters that were not intended for an isekai or for being in feudal Japan, and that's where we were to start off with. So, yeah. And I remember Vin's words at the end of that, because this wasn't recorded. Vin's words were that they'd never seen a first-time group, perform so well together, or be able to like bounce off each other so well. And of course, we all know each other for if not a year, then more than that, many years. So yeah, we were all excited about that, and we decided, okay, well, let's make this the story again, sort of foreshadowing the idea of us not wanting to start over. Because, I mean, yeah, that would have been the time to do so and think of a better setting, or as Ghosty suggested, playing through an existing campaign, but that doesn't seem to be how, that doesn't seem to be Vin's style, so that was never going to happen, let's say. But yeah, that's that established like that general mentality that was only then marred by behind the scenes issues that I have said before, and I'll say again many times. If the issues are happening behind the scenes with the particular group, us starting over with a new story would not fix those, because it's the same group and the same scenes that we are behind. So we might as well find ways to move forward with what we had, than try to start over again without addressing, the actual problems. Again, reinforced by the fact that Breathing Moon was encompassed the 3 best sessions, because we seem to actually finally be given all the freedom to be actually enter our proper stride as well. So again, the further along that we went, the less likely it was that we really should, setting up a conclusion of any kind. Now, it was suggested that because the last episode ended up on a cliffhanger, we could do like an epilogue or something, and end things there, which would have solved not much of anything really. I guess it would mean that we didn't have to stay on the actual moon, because Ghosty wanted to retract that campaign setting. Another negotiation I had was the fact that we have the city, of course, but we haven't seen the rest of the map, so we can just pretend the city was part of a different setting the whole time, and have Error or potentially ourselves come up with some other options. And yeah, that once again seemed to be okay. I mean, Ghost suggested dimension hopping or something, which I thought was too complicated, because it involved quantum shifting and such. Which then I was apparently surprised to hear that people seem to be more confused by the idea of staying on the moon rather than going to a different plane of existence again. A shocking thing, but ultimately something that was inconsequential, because either way our characters would have known nothing about the rest of the world, and therefore it would not matter. So I'm just deciding which way to go again. Yeah, it seems like straight line. Still the best option. But yeah, By the way, I'm in Portugal. I'm in one of the parks that I found before, but I actually wasn't, that I didn't have time to explore at the time. So I thought, hey, you know, I've got some afternoon lessons, but I've got time before I need to be back for said lessons. So I went and had lunch and came here. Anyways, back to what I was saying before about this. So the general idea was that, yeah, in front of the scenes fine, behind the scenes was bad, and that was the source of stress. Until literally 2 days ago, during the bit where she mentioned about Hera being the one-shot character. So again, that somewhat tracks. And the other stuff that tracks as well are like the hints I mentioned earlier. Remember I said before, I brought up the ideas of like Hera threatening to leave the campaign, and the confrontations with Lumina, the fact that Nathaniel was the force that was, you know, making sure that she stayed behind and such. Yeah, that was that at the time seemed like an obstacle to overcome, you know, in the sessions. Now, had we known that this was indirectly KW's way of trying to retire the character, had any of us had any actual verbal confirmation of this, or, you know, behind the scenes indication that the problem was that character specifically in this instance, we would have been able to, I mean, I guess this is technically metagaming to a certain extent, but it would be metagaming for a good purpose. We would have been able to facilitate that idea, because she very nearly left in the last session, spoilers I guess, after, well, during her date with Nathaniel. Once Nathaniel went to the toilets at one point and came back, he found that there was just a note that Hera had left behind, and she was very much about to set off and leave. To which, of course, me, not knowing that this was, you know, an attempt to retire the character, decided, okay, well, my logical step, being the person that Nathaniel is, and, you know, the one who's trying to, you know, give her all of the love and affection she doesn't feel like she deserves, and that stuff I mentioned earlier, it's my best option is to you know, bolt back to the room that we share and stop her from leaving, which is what I did. And we had that moment where they actually were seemingly about to set off together, actually. Now again, if Nathaniel had, you know, maybe like arrived too late, or, you know, or there was no indication or anything, I don't know, or I'd been told, then we could have very easily done the idea of like, okay, well, she's disappeared, and that was that, you know. It's a tragic ending to what we're calling the arc of the musical assassin, which was the ship name that Emily came up with yesterday for the pair of them. But it would have been, but it would have, like, at least, you know, it would have at least meant that that we could find an easy way around this. Because, like, finding something for Doc to do, this is something that I actually also had to think about. Finding something for Doc was easier than thinking of something for Hera. And I mentioned why, because with Doc we actually came up with a plan based on the ending of the last episode, which I won't spoil, but ultimately it means that, you know, he doesn't lose any standing and he has, like, a proper reason to depart, and, you know, essentially everyone was happy, except the characters who would miss him, of course, I mean. But no, what we end up with instead now, with Hera actually, is instead of that departure, which would have worked on many levels if we'd known about it, suddenly it was her idea even to have, well, I guess it was my idea to have Nathaniel, like, tag along with her, but she accepted, and they officially became boyfriend and girlfriend, and then like they actually had, like, the proper moment, like, actually the of the final version of the song that Nathaniel had written for her. And I think they actually also stayed that last night before they were about to leave the next day instead, and actually properly either say goodbye or have the other people tag along. And that was meant to be our motivation to leave the city and explore the rest of the Breathing Moon when Ghosty was still around. So again, all of that got kneecapped, minus the setting, because again, that was kneecapped by Ghosty's departure and eventually the new setting would have been the excuse there. So we said that okay, well, Era suggested taking over as Hera, and no, Era becomes Hera, and you know, wrapping up everything as quickly as possible, at least for her, if not for the entire campaign, because again, this was still back when we were on the fence about whether or not to conclude it as we did, and retire all the characters, not just the one. To which I and Emily both pointed out that that Hera was intrinsically tied to so much to do with like the other characters, particularly as far as like their actual interactions and tensions were going. She was either the source of that or a huge contributor. To which Era then said, how did your campaign end up with a main character? That's not supposed to happen. To which I said it didn't. And then I compared our group dynamic to Team Avatar. And what I mean is, with Team Avatar, for those who have seen Avatar, unfortunately Era hasn't, but yeah, to most people who have, with Team Avatar, you have very specific like group dynamics between them. That basically amount to you know, like everyone has some sort of like interaction in relation to one other person in the group, or like every other person in the group, I mean. So if you take like, you know, one character, for example, let's say Sokka, for the sake of, you know, for argument's sake, and you say, okay, well, Katara, for example, well, they're brother and sister, and he's felt responsible for protecting her, but also sees her as the motherly influence in his life, as they both lost their own mother. There's more to it, but again, I'm paraphrasing. I'm going into small details here. Then we go to Toph, a late arrival. Toph actually has you know, seemingly an implicit crush on Sokka. In a few scenes, also has a few tsundere moments where she actually seems to like genuinely care for him, but also ribbons him a lot for not being a bender. And from Sokka's perspective, he tries to play peacekeeper between Toph and Katara as well, which is the three-way dynamic, and you know, things go from there. Aang didn't like him at first, warmed up to Toppy personality in his own words, actually, and eventually they became best bros. Appa, pretty much the same as everyone else who isn't Aang. Momo, again, exactly the same, except for the fact they threatened to eat him first. And Zuko had his life-changing field trip moments where he eventually managed to move past the hurt that he had caused. Boom, simple as. And if you want to include Suki in that list, which some people do, some people don't, then you know, girlfriend opened up his eyes to the abilities of women, specifically in combat circumstances, and basically like made him a better person pretty much immediately. So there we go. And helped him get over his trauma with UA. A lot there. And you could do that for any of the characters in Team Avatar, and they correspond. And that's the case for Quest of the Rising Sun as well. Like if you say, for example, let's take Nathaniel, since I can personally vouch for this. Nathaniel and Doc, again, best bros, pretty much. Nathaniel seems to be the one person who like always puts like his his trust in Doc, despite the mishaps that have happened. Basically like relies on him either for like actual advice and assistance in certain matters, like, you know, dating and whatever. And sees him as the mentor figure that he was originally supposed to be in terms of his actual character pitch. Let's see, Lumina. Nathaniel is the first person to try to, you know, to trust Lumina and try to open up. I guess Doc as well. They were at the same time, but because of the way that Lumina is, that comes off as like standoffish to pretty much like everyone else. Nathaniel's been mostly exempt from her direct vitriol and mockery, and also from her more diabolical plans, let's say, or at least as far as he is concerned. So he doesn't see any of that stuff that has happened, because again, him being blissfully unaware of stuff is part of his character. And also was one of the first people to show Lumina an act of kindness that she appreciated, introducing her to the concept of chocolates and sweets, which you know wins any child / preteen over, unless they have like diabetes or something, lactose intolerance. You get the idea. Let's see, who else did I say? Well, Barb. Well, again, brother and sister. And as that, you know, with all of the connections and tension that comes with, of course, a lifetime of growing up together and memories that they've formed with each other, but also the tension of Barb treating him like the younger brother, who can't really defend himself and is, you know, too small and weak to really realize this stuff, and didn't seem to understand like his optimism until he actually had like a blow up moment about that. Regarding her, and also again her general protectivity of Nathaniel comes up as like, you know, that comes from a place of true heart, not like an actual superiority complex or anything. And Nathaniel understands that, but he also needs to put his foot down and actually go independent from that. Then you have Hera, and good grief, where do I start here? I've already gone into detail about like their romance arc, but also like how it started from like trying to get up the trust with like Lumina and Utopiash. I was mentioned Utopiash as well. Didn't really get much of a chance to form a bond with him, but Nathaniel tried. Like whenever he was like actually around, and Nathaniel blamed himself for what happened to Utopiash as well, because he should have checked more thoroughly for him. And that was also, it's just like metagaming, because normally Nathaniel would like open that door to check on him, but I knew that Junior had left the call, so I was like, okay, well I need to, I'm going to pretend that he knocked back, or that I you know, didn't hear anything, so therefore something was fine. But yeah, back to Hera. Again, the person that is trying to show her to love and to trust, because that's his way of trying to make her happier. And also, of course, you know, through the medium of song as well, because everyone he thinks can be made happier through the medium of song. Everything can be improved with a song. That was part of his theme song. So yeah, you can see there that Nathaniel is very much like an ingrained part of this, to the same degree that Hera is, or Lumina, or Barb actually as well, because particularly with Barb, Lumina, and Hera, they have like a three-way hatred thing going around with each other. Another reason why Doc was important, because they can direct their hate towards him, and Nathaniel's important because he can try to quell all of them. I didn't tell Era any of this because it wasn't super relevant, but that's Nathaniel's role, and that doesn't make him the main character either. No more so than Hera being connected to being the person who has a family connection to the potential antagonist of the series, and how that developed organically. No dice required, for the record. Fate system, where we decided that, okay, well, let's say that this wild magic curse, that, yeah, okay, fine, that was dice roll, but let's say the wild magic curse that Nathaniel has was the reason he was targeted by Hera, because now she said, okay, well, I was sent to murder you. Why was that? Well, because of the thing. We tied those two connections together and eventually realized that yes, they were both the targets, and Hera stayed because, again, she warmed up to Nathaniel's optimism even at first, despite the fact that she outwardly disliked him at that time. So again, yet another thing that that unified them through that piece of shared history. But also with Lumina, because Lumina has ties to Hera's family and suspected her from the beginning, and is also the person who was actively kneecapping her character arc, which was in turn kneecapping Lumina's own character arc of potentially either becoming a better person or going the negative route of becoming even worse. And that's of course not even bringing up the cat girls and the chimps that have all tied to Nathaniel specifically, but also Hera despised and Lumina doesn't like either, that kind of thing. So yeah, and it got me thinking about why Doc was so easy to retire versus Lumina. And at first I thought it was because Doc was kind of kept on the periphery by a lot of the characters. Not the same degree that Utopia felt that he was, but because of the way that his chaos to anyone who was more self-aware than Nathaniel, which is basically everyone, it was very obvious that he was not very qualified for his job and seemed to actively be getting in the way of whenever we did make progress, or just simply cause actual stress and discomfort to either characters, or when it became the body swap thing with aided by Vin, the players. So because he was already at a distance with most people, it's really gonna just be Nathaniel who has to go through the withdrawal of that, but also but Lumina doesn't even know about the secret connection between them, because that was something that Doc was going to reveal at some point. So that now is a smoking gun, let's say. Yeah. But yeah, I think that might have been why, because of that whole distance thing. Whereas Hera, even though she felt like a lonesome character, she was, like I said before in episodes prior, the lone wolf that was the proper version of that tale, where the person who thinks they need to be solitary, but actually really wasn't, but never got to realize just how unalone they truly were. Again, partly because of the general vibe mistrust with them, with pretty much everyone, all the trust things. I don't really know. And that's why it was so difficult to think of okay, well, all that stuff needs to be wrapped up this quickly. We don't even know about how the Pale Orcs are. That should be a whole arc to itself. And that's something that would need to still be developed. Even though Kenobi said, like I said before, that she didn't have any ideas for where to proceed with the character. And ultimately it almost caused a breakdown, which was another surprising factor, because again, this source of tension seemed to come out of nowhere, because every time that I think that there's nothing else that seems to be holding us back, or people have kept a reservation, they suddenly bring out, which is, again, not helpful, especially now that I'm managing the project. But again, it's all the things that yes, did get accepted, and then for an entire day, I lost sleep over this, trying to think of okay, what do I do? Is this going to be the end? Am I going to have to do a terrible epilogue? How annoyed am I really about the lack of communication here? That was just more than I thought, but less than you think. And again, is there any way forward from here? And I just didn't know for a solid day, and it felt like, everything that we had tried to work for was over. We had just made a new server, we just established a whole new game plan, we have a new potential DM for us, who seemed to be more and more on board with how we were doing things, and understood our drive to finish the story properly, or just to continue it. Because again, we were never planning to wrap up where we did. Like, again, this is all behind the scenes stuff. In front of the scenes, we could continue for a long time into the future, like most campaigns supposedly do, or at least the long form ones. But it felt like that was it, you know. We were done. If only we'd heard about this before, and were able to actually make a retiring plan that would have functioned for the character and allowed KW to either continue forward or, you know, because again, it was her baby. We don't want her to leave the series at all. And yeah, if only that was been the case. But then it hit me right before I was about to go to bed last night. That moment, inspiration struck me like a bard whose abilities far outreached my own. And I realized there was one way forward that we could manage. It would involve having to swallow my storytelling pride and actually retcon something. Now, how do we do this? Well, remember I said that scene before that there was like basically the good ending of Musical Assassin, or at least the good actual moment where they get together, which again is like the happy ever after for most stories, but we want to actually explore the relationship, right? That was kind of the idea. But yeah, what if that one we took the video, well, I took the video rather, because I would probably do this, and I made like either a silent scene of some kind where we actually get the bad ending, basically, of that, where like I said before, Nathaniel was too late. We then cut to the actual end scene with Anya and that whole thing with Doc to set up his departure, which again I will not spoil. Which I run this by Aiden, by the way. I ran Doc's departure by Aiden, so he knows what the plan is and approved of it. But yeah, basically that, and so and I guess that would mean that could have a chance to either come back as like a new character of some kind that she actually feels she can probably connect to. Now, it's very interesting to me as well, because I didn't mention this before, but like the way that she mentioned that Hera was seemingly someone she hadn't really quite thought of as far as character growth goes. I think I kind of see the issues here. Having watched and read a lot of KW's work, I've developed a little bit of a psychological profile on her creative process, at least as far as main characters go. And that's a lot of the main characters of KW share a lot of DNA with each other. Amir from Misfits, for example, has the mafia style, assassin style upbringing in common with Hera, as well as the family drama and the general idea that departing from a group of friends and going at it alone is the best solution for everyone, because otherwise, you know, if you're the big target, then you can't open up to people, because you'll just end up putting them in harm's way. You don't want that, especially if you've grown to care for them. I guess Kairos has also similar idea of again, assassin upbringing, but also relating to her family specifically, and being one of the only variants of her particular kind as well, which, you know, Hera as well, Pale Orc. Who else is going to mention? Obviously, we talked about before how Misfits and Klamai were once one and the same, story-wise, and therefore Anna and Amir have a lot of the same makeup as far as their story progression. And I think it's actually ultimately the most different character out of all of the roster, but the actual progression seems to be the same, or like has some shared elements, which makes me think that KW is simply bored with this particular setup of character. Like in fact, even Katie Black, I think, you know, again created by a dark overlord for the purpose of destruction, but ultimately defected and now is seemingly like on the run from those same people. Yeah, like it feels like that is that is super consistent, and therefore what KW needs is not only just a change of pace as far as that goes, but also to potentially either think about ideas for, you know, how to continue, like how to make Hera seem like much more different, and therefore grow said attachment, or not. Like Sayaka is actually very different as a character than all of the other people I just mentioned. But yeah. So I'm gonna go into the town, I think. That'll be fun. No, it won't, because they're doing building work. I'm gonna continue on this course. But yeah, and the reason I bring up the idea of, like, you know, continuing that is because actually that came from KW herself. I suggested as one of the potential ideas that we could do that that KW could come back as a different character, and ultimately the the potential mission would be to track down Hera. Now that's because, again, that's exactly what Nathaniel would want to do in this situation, because of course he'd want that closure. He doesn't want to, you know, fail his now potential girlfriend rather than like official one, because that's going to have been retconned. And hopefully be able to I give excuses for why everyone else would tag along as well to this, which also sets up the idea of us banning the city and enjoying the new setting, regardless of, you know, dimension or that kind of like established domain. So regarding that, that's when that, like, my intention originally was that was going to end up that was going to end up actually, wait, no, maybe I shouldn't say. I wonder if I should actually talk about this particular part, just for the sake of just for the mention of spoilers, because the other stuff I said that's what we would do anyway. But okay, you know what? Because I've already set up the story, I kind of have to. So so KW actually, instead of telling me that's like an outright failure of a quest idea, decided that, okay, maybe actually what I would need is a break in order to come up with some stuff. It's like I being her in this case. That's why I bring up the whole idea of like the being bored with the same concept. Like, yes, the ultimate concept is going to have to be the same, but how do you differentiate that particular person from the others, so to speak? And I think Hera's already the most different out of all of them, just based on like the small details about, like, you know, her being a lightweight, for example, how flustered she's able to get. Who's a bit more volatile than some of the other characters on that list, not all of them, but some of them, and you know, has already had her conversion, but still keeps like those whatever, keeps the same abilities. Actually, you know, there's some small details there, basically, is what I was trying to get at. But ultimately, yeah, there you need something something more. What do you build on for that? You know, what do you build on for like the Pale Orcs arc as well, which now Kenobi has suggested back again? Like, that renewed excitement also caught me off guard, but in a positive way this time. And I'm very grateful that, you know, ultimately it's not like a full definitive thing, because I was prepared for that. My original idea was that I was prepared for that, but I'm so glad I didn't come to that. And that's why I'm happy, because I almost had to announce the pretty much closure of the entire campaign, minus like one epilogue maybe. But no, through actual openness of the DM to all of our lore and madness, once again an actual calm and a calm discussion about, you know, how to make everyone the happiest. We've managed to find once again the compromise from all the people in the group, which is ultimately a huge part of D&D itself. Not bad for my first week, I think. So yeah, the future is looking up, but for now, of course, we're still parking it until January because of the scheduling thing, and we don't know what's going to happen in January. As well as, what was I going to say? As well as the fact that we want to test out to make sure that, you know, any surprise tensions within the group come out in the form of maybe some other one-shots or a different campaign of some kind, which have also had some ideas thrown around for them, which I won't say out loud. And basically establish that from there. So yeah, so we will be testing those things out again to make sure that, mostly for error's sake, because one thing to be like excited about this stuff, but as Ghosty found out, the reality can sometimes be very, very deceiving in that regard. But I hope now it makes sense to why everyone has a connection to everyone. Era suggested as well that in their campaigns before that everyone seemed to have a connection to one character rather than all of them, but then again also said that they'd only DM'd for 3 people max, so that really doesn't correlate in this context. But hopefully now that makes a bit more sense, and now we actually have now there's actually a better idea for all of us. And again, if anyone else in the group has anything else they need to add or to go over with me in DMs or in public, if you think it would benefit everyone to know anything at all, please let me know, because we can keep doing this song and dance of finding out new sources of tension and stress and trying to solve yet again another stuff that we couldn't have accounted for because we didn't know about before, or we can have them, you know, all at once and deal with that before we start involving, you know, error, for example. The choice is up to everyone else, so there we go. I'm going to switch around and go back through the town, I think, because I can turn off the camera now because I'm finally done talking, and somehow I ended up with a longer walking Wednesday than last week, even though I thought it was not going to be the case. But wow, that was a lot to get through. So yeah, but also Ghosty still has that video for perspective, so check out that when it comes out. But before that, please leave a like or dislike, because your opinion matters, and subscribe to us already. And on that note, until next time, farewell.